So you're obviously very passionate about this. Why? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, again, that wasn't planned either. I was in my counseling training program back in the early 90s, 1991 or something like that. And when I was doing my internship, what I noticed is that when I would work with certain clients or hear their stories, I would have physical discomfort in certain parts of my body. I would have pain. I would have just different things that were kind of bizarre, and they didn't really have, there wasn't really a physiological basis for them. And the other thing that happened over time is in working with a certain population of clients, that I would be going along, going throughout my day, doing my chores, minding my business, living my life, and I would have these overwhelming feelings of dread or grief, sometimes something that felt like rage, and sometimes it was just a feeling of like my brain would shut down and go, won't compute, can't be here. And I was never suicidal. It wasn't that. It was just as if I was reliving an experience where my brain went into overwhelm and I just shut down. And these scenarios got closer and closer together the more I worked with these clients. And it happened with such regularity and began to happen with such frequency and intensity and made no logical sense. I didn't have any memory of any trauma in my childhood or any trauma in my life that I could attribute this to. I had been through a counseling program where we were required to do an awful lot of work on ourselves, and I didn't have any reference for this and what was going on. So I started working with a therapist, a traditional therapist in Greenville, and the more we talked about this, the more we started feeling like I had some repressed memories, some trauma that I had repressed, and obviously nobody wants to hear that, and I didn't, but at some point it just became so clear that whatever was in my body wanted out, and it wanted out bad. And I just knew that one way or another, whatever it is I was carrying around, I wanted it out of me. At some point she suggested hypnotherapy, and we tried it a couple of times, but I didn't like it. It felt, honestly, it felt a little leading. And this was during the time that there was a big to-do in the profession about false memory syndrome. There were people going to jail because they had been falsely accused of sexually abusing their children because a therapist had done hypnosis or something like that and had revealed that there were repressed memories and that sort of thing. And it was so, at the time, I don't know, some people may remember it. Some therapists that might be watching this, maybe if they're old enough, they remember that. But it was a big deal, and it was something that I really didn't want any part of. I wasn't interested in sending anybody to jail. I wasn't really interested in confronting anybody. I just wanted whatever this energy was in me that was making me sick, I just wanted it out. So, to her credit, she started referring me to non-traditional therapists, but a lot of these people, I don't even think most of them were therapists, but they were doing interesting things to help people connect with the physical sensations within a feeling and get those feelings out of their bodies. And sometimes it was done in groups with other therapists. And that sort of evolved. So what I'm saying is it's set up, designed to help people express whatever it is they were feeling and express it through and out of their bodies, a body-informed way of connecting with the feeling and allowing it to come through and coming out of the body in some way that would be satisfying to the body to release that matched the original experience or the feeling and let it out. And I'm going to digress for just a second to talk about Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine, who are now really well known for their work with trauma and trauma's impact on the body. These guys weren't around at that time, but there were a lot of people that were doing this kind of work with people who weren't trained therapists but were helping people release emotions. And this is something that I just really took to and felt right to me because of my own personal experience. So the more I did this kind of work, the more comfortable I got with feeling feelings and letting them come up in my body and letting my body, not just my mouth, my body express them without having to know where in the world it came from, without needing this controlling mind to go to try to control it. I just got comfortable with working with energy. It's what I call it, working with energy in that way. So at some point when I got better and better at working with emotions and working with energy in this way, the more I made a space for the feelings to come up, the more the feelings told me. And in time, the feelings, my nervous system essentially said, okay, Shelly, you're ready for us to reveal to you this traumatic event and what happened. Now, I still don't have a visual memory in the way we think of as memory, but at some point, I allowed my body to act it out. Actually, what happened is I was on the telephone with my ex-husband, and we got in an argument about something, and I don't even remember what it was about. But the argument triggered these deep primal feelings that I knew even at the time didn't have anything to do with him. But we got off the phone, and I remembered saying to myself, okay, I'm ready. I could just feel that I was ripe because I had done this, baseline foundational work. And my body pretty much reenacted this traumatic event with me still not having any visual memory of it at all, and I still don't. But so I let myself let my body lead in what it wanted to do, and the feelings kind of work through my body as I kind of reenacted is an overly simplistic way to say it, but that was basically how it was. And there was this other part of me, the therapist in me, was kind of taking notes because I figured I was going to be helping other people do this, right? So after that happened and I felt this huge relief, as if this big trauma had just been purged from my body, they were still like everything else. There were still residual layers. But at that point, I was hooked. So I was traveling the continent, really, for non-traditional, non-talk therapy approaches, trusting that if I could hold powerful memories like that in my body and not know, what in the world is everybody else carrying around inside them that they don't even know it, that's running things behind the scenes? I'm not the only one. And it doesn't have to be a big trauma. It could be little stuff. I mean, our conscious minds can't remember every little thing that happened to us. But when anything happens to a little person whose survival is dependent on big people, and those big people don't always provide us with what we need, which they don't. No parent does. Our little organism has a reaction to it and a feeling about it. If only it's just it's a place where we might catch our breaths, or a place where our body might tense. We hold that residual energy in our bodies, and it's in the unconscious mind, the body mind, and it's running stuff behind the scenes. So I hope I'm answering your question as to why I'm so passionate about it.